And so going back to 20 years ago, the way that alarms worked is that an alarm would go off. A lot of people sort of think it's like they think that the alarm goes off and it goes straight to the police. And so it's sort of thinking along this way. The house alarm goes off, send a signal straight to the police, and then they come rushing, lights and siren, in like the Metropolitan whistle to come and save the day. And the reality is that there's laws in place that basically ensure that that's impossible to happen. So that the city bylaw that regulates alarms basically says that before notifying the police, an alarm company must contact a homeowner. So basically, as any alarm company, they are not allowed to call the police until they've called. It used to be you just had to try to call an emergency contact. So you had to get a hold of you wherever you were. Now the rules change to say, it's not even good enough to try. You must get a hold of that person. So in reality, what happens is the alarm goes off, and you've got a 30 to 90-second delay time. And we'll talk about that in terms of when the alarm actually sounds and sends a signal. But the alarm signal does not go to the police. It goes to a third-party monitoring station. So that monitoring station gets the call, and they know, well, they're not allowed to call the police. So first thing they're going to do is they're going to call back to the house to make sure it's not a false alarm. So they're going to ring back the house, and no one's going to answer. If they've got two-way voice or a speakerphone or something, they'll talk into the house, say, hey, is everything okay? It's a false alarm. And what happens is no one answers, so then they still can't call the police. They got to track you down. So maybe you're out shopping, they call you on your cell phone and say, hey, there's an alarm at your house. You say, well, I don't know, no one's at my house. I'm out shopping. Can you send the police? And so at that stage, they call ECOM, which is the 911 who answers the phone at 911, and then they'll relay the information to the constables that are on patrol. And an alarm call is considered by the police a priority 3 call, which is a pretty low. It just means it's not an urgent situation. And so what's going to happen is the police will get the signal, they will respond, and they'll get there in a bit. It's true.
Did he stop for a burger in a way?
I'm sorry?
Did he stop for a burger in a way?
Well, no, these guys, the thing is, it makes a lot of sense as to why it happens that way, is because the police know that there's all these steps that have to happen before they even find out about it. So, because what the police know and what the cities know is that there's a 6 to 10 minute minimum before the police are even aware of the alarm. So what the police know is that no matter how fast they get there, they're coming to write a report because the bad guys are long gone. And so there's just no point. So that's why it was a year and a half ago, the Vancouver Police had a patrol deployment study that they released to the media with their response times. And the priority 3 calls for alarms, the average response time is 2 hours and 6 minutes. And that's a lot of people's sort of experience has been, is that the alarm goes off and just the police just can't go. The reason that they can't go, and the reason that it makes no sense for them to go with lights and sirens to all of these alarm calls, is that 98% of all alarm calls are completely false. And the vast majority of that 98% is user error. Got everyone coming home, punching in their code, making mistakes, at the same time sending alarms. So 98% of the time, when the alarm companies call to the house, say, hey, is everything okay? The people say, oh yeah, no, sorry, that was me. It's just a false alarm. Don't worry about it. And so this is why you've got cities like Dallas, Las Vegas, Victoria, Whistler, Salt Lake City, that are just coming out with non-response policies. So the police and city council are just basically saying, this is stupid. It's a complete waste of our time. We're not going to send police chasing down these 98% false alarms. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. In Vancouver, what they've elected to do is, rather than doing an outright ban on doing it, they've created rules, say, okay, we will send them, but we're going to put all these steps in place first. And the challenge is that what ends up happening is that you create an environment where every alarm is assumed to be false until proven otherwise. But the problem is, by the time you've proven otherwise, it doesn't matter anymore. So nothing happens. A big reason, the reason why this has sort of become such a massive problem in the past few years, I'm going to pick on one company because it's my favorite to pick on, but is the free alarms. And it was actually ADT that started it maybe about 10 years ago where they came up with financing plans where alarms used to be really expensive. And it used to be 20 years ago that you had to be wealthy to be able to afford to put an alarm in. And what the alarm companies figured out is that the real business is in the monitoring. It's in the recurring monthly fee. So the whole business changed to how can we get it as cheap as possible to give you something in your house that we can get a recurring revenue stream from. And so it put alarms into literally millions and millions and millions and millions of people's homes with a 98% false alarm rate, creating a massive issue for police departments everywhere. So if you go to Google and you search for free home security, you get 62 million hits immediately, and there's just you can pick. There's still starting to change a little bit. There's still tons of companies that'll do it. They'll put in the free system, but that's what's caused the whole issue of non-response, because there should be no urgency on it. So I got into a little bit of trouble. I was on the Bill Good show a few years ago, 2 years ago, and talking about this issue. And I said that my quote was the alarm industry is a parasite on the police, because in my view, I look at it and say, well, it's the only private industry that I can think of where you've got a private business that's selling a service that, in order to have any value whatsoever, relies exclusively on a government agency over which they have no control. And so you've got police coming to city councils all over North America saying, we don't have enough police officers, we need more. You've got city councils saying, we don't have enough money to hire more people. Meanwhile, you've got private businesses that are selling a service that are helping make a bad problem even worse. So it's a big it's a big cycle. So we're fortunate enough to have a few other people that took offense to that line, and we got the security industry in Canada and the U.S. We had lots of that got reprinted quite a few times, and it's a big problem throughout everywhere in North America. So in terms of one of the things that we do is a little bit different. When the alarm goes,